Good day, students and viewers. You are welcome to the studios of Maths X. Previously, we introduced the topic swords. Swords. In that class, I explained to you that first of all, a sword is a number and that a sword is a real number. In number systems, that there are two types of numbers, the real and the imaginary, which we said we should serve it for another day. For the real numbers, we also explained that there are two types of real numbers, being the rational and the irrational numbers. We did some justice to the rational number aspect, where I told you that there are two types of rational numbers: the terminating rational numbers and the non-terminating and recurring rational numbers. I explained to you also in that class that a sword falls under the irrational number side of number systems. In that class, I took time to analyze for you the structure of a sword. For today's class, we will delve deeper into what a sword is. Happy viewing. Let's talk about types of swords. Not like we're going to give you all the types of swords, but the scope of our work in this class will just give you types of swords that are related to what we are going to be doing here. So for our next unit, which is called Types of Swords, all right. For types of sword, the first type of sword I want us to talk about is the pure sword. These are swords in their pure forms. Yes. Examples of swords in their pure forms, I have root 2. This is a sword in its pure form. That is this form. Cube root of 5. I used it earlier. These are swords in their pure forms, just the way it is. The second type of sword I want us to talk about is called a mixed sword. A mixed sword is the product of a pure sword and a rational number. A pure sword and a rational number. For instance, if I have 3 root 5. 3 root 5 is 3 times root 5. Yes, so this is the product of a sword and a rational number. Not just this, how about minus 4 root 3? These are mixed swords. A third type of sword is called like or maybe similar swords. For like or similar swords, this is when pure or mixed swords share common factors. I'm looking at root 2, 3 root 2, minus 5 root 2, 6 root 2. These are all like swords. If you look at them, they share the root 2 in common. All of them have that. So they are all like swords. They can be added, subtracted. I'll talk about that later. The fourth type of sword I want us to talk about are called unlike or dissimilar swords. It's much the opposite of this, where pure or mixed swords don't share common factors. So if you have 2 root 2, 3 root 5, minus 4 root 3. So these are dissimilar swords. The fifth kind of sword is the compound swords. For compound swords, these are expressions for addition and subtraction of 2 or more swords. So I'm looking at examples like 3 plus root 2. How about root 3 minus 6? Or maybe even root 2 plus root 3. and so on and so forth. The last for today, but surely not the least, are called conjugates. Conjugate sorts. We'll talk more about this. For conjugate sorts, these are two sort expressions that are similar but different in sign. Two sorts expressions that are similar but different in sign. So I'm looking at 3 plus root 2. Its conjugate will be 3 minus root 2, or maybe root 2 minus 4. Its conjugate is root 2 plus 4. So if you look at these two expressions, they're the same. It's just a difference in sign. The same thing goes here. These are its conjugates. We'll come back to this later and we'll talk plenty about this. For the last part of this video, we'll be talking about rules of sorts. For us to better understand how to use sorts, we need to be acquainted with its rules. So for rule 1 of sorts, if I have two pure sorts, root A plus root A, this would give us a 2 root A. An example of this would be, since there are two pure sorts, they are not just pure sorts, they are similar sorts, which is what I discussed here. So they are like sorts, they are similar sorts. So this gives us 2 root A. They behave like your x plus x. That's 2x, which we use in algebra. So an example of this would be 3 root 2 plus 5 root 2. We end up having 8 root 2. Or maybe root 5 plus root 5. This is 2 root 5. So where we have two similar pure sorts, they can add. Our second rule of sort is if I have two pure dissimilar sorts. So I have root A plus root B. There isn't much you can do here. So an example on this would be 2 root 3 plus 4 root 2. These are two dissimilar sorts. Two dissimilar sorts don't add, they don't subtract. Maybe also 3 root 2 minus 4 root 5. These are two dissimilar mixed sorts. Of course, you cannot add them nor subtract them. Let's look at a third rule of sort. If I have two pure sorts, root A times root A, to multiply them, this would give us square root of A times A, which is square root, the square root covers both of them. This is square root of A squared. Remember in our class on indices, if you've not watched that video, you should check it out. We talked about fractional index. That was rule 6. That where the index is a fraction, that it's a root. So we will express square root of A squared as a fractional index. And this gives us A to power 2 all to power a half. This would mean that the 2 will cancel the 2. This is rule 3, where we had the product law. So 2 cancels the half. So our final answer here is what? A. This is what happens. This is a third rule of sort. An example of this would be, let's take from, this would be 3 root 5 times 2 root 5. Or let's start this way first. Let's use similar sorts. Root 5 times root 5. This would be equal to 5 times 5 under square root. And also square root of 25. We know that square root of 25 is what? Is, excuse me, a plus or a minus 5. Let's look at another example. Maybe we have 3 root 5 times root 5. This would be 3 root 5 times 5, which is 3 root 25 equals 3 times 5, and our final answer is 15. For our fourth rule of sort, if we have two dissimilar pure sorts like root A times root B, this is an A please, like a root A times a root B, this would give us root AB. If this is so, we're going to have square root of 3 times square root of 5. This will be square root of 3 times 5, which is square root of 15. Our fifth rule of sort is if I have A over B under square root, for A over B under square root, this will be square root of A over square root of B. Please note that A and B must be integers. Very important. They must be integers. An example on this would be if I have square root of 12 over square root of 3. Using this rule, this would simply be 12 over 3, which is, this cancels, and we have square root of 4, and square root of 4 is what? Plus or minus 2. How about a case where we have root 4 over root 25? You know that square root of 4 is 2. Our square root of 25 is 5. That's your final answer. Let's look at the sixth rule of sort, where we have that root A plus B is not root A plus root B. An example on this would be, let's use square root of 8 plus 2. For square root of 8 plus 2, this will be square root of 10, and it would have a value of about 3.16 or so. So on the flip side, we say it's not. Let's find this out. So this will be square root of 8 plus square root of 2. Square root of 8 we know is 2 root 2 plus root 2. These are similar sorts, so they can add. So this will be 3 root 2. So clearly, it's not equal to. They're not the same. They're not the same. Clearly. Let's look at rule 7. Rule 7 of sorts, where we have that A plus B is also not A minus B. A minus B is also not equal to root A minus root B. For this, this will be that 8 minus 2 cannot be equal to root 8 minus root 2. This is square root of 6, of course, is not equal to 2 root 2 minus root 2. 2 root 2 minus root 2 is root 2 itself. So look at this, root 2, root 6 is not equal to root 2. Please take this off for me. Thank you. So these are rules of sorts. So dear students and viewers, today we've learned about sorts, what sorts are. We've talked about rational numbers, irrational numbers. I've given you types of rational numbers, and also talked about the irrational numbers in themselves, where sorts fall under. So I've given you types of sorts, and then rules guarding sort operations. Do watch out for our next videos, where I'm going to use these rules for certain sort operations. Till we meet again, keep watching the videos of Maths X, like, subscribe, and share with your friends as you do so. God bless you. Real good. Thank you very much.